Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all new Talkin Movies. I am your host, the real Geno Reynolds, and today we got a couple of movies that I wanted to love, but I just can't. Will I rip these movies to shreds? No, but I did have some problems with them that just didn't make them work for me. The first movie that we're going to be talking about today is Hotel Artemis. This is a movie where Jodie Foster leads a pretty big ensemble cast. Set in a riot-torn near-future Los Angeles, Hotel Artemis follows the nurse who runs a secret members-only emergency room for criminals. Things begin to go bad when everybody that's coming in for the night wants to start breaking the hotel's rules. Warning, there will be some spoilers during this review. I won't give up how the movie ends or anything, but I do have to talk about what happens in the movie to get my point across, and there's a lot that happens in this movie, so it would be almost impossible to avoid all spoilers. So what works in this movie? The cast, first of all. I really liked all of the characters. Even the ones that were kind of insignificant, I liked the performances and everything. Before you ask, though, just remember that the location code names that I'm about to give for these characters is a hotel rule for keeping its guest identities anonymous. It's just kind of how the movie goes, and it's one of those where the characters, they have names, but they don't ever use them, or you may, in some cases, you don't even find them out. Jodie Foster, as the nurse, was a fun lead for this movie. She's a bit of a shut-in. Her character also, later on, you find out, is a bit damaged. And she's kind of hiding her pain from everybody. And she just kind of plays the, I guess you can say, the calm of the hotel. And I thought she did a really good job as her character, with at least with what she was given. This movie was only about an hour and a half or so. So they didn't have a ton of time to develop all these characters. And we're going to get to that in a bit. Dave Bautista as Everest gets to use a lot of dry, calm humor with his character. He's the type of character that tries to keep everything under control until he has to lose control himself. He was by far my favorite character in the movie. Anytime he was on screen, I really liked him. He had some of the best lines about being a healthcare professional and stuff like that. It's pretty funny. And everything he did, I mean, he used a little bit, maybe not as literal humor as Drax, but you know, the slow delivery, the dry delivery that he did as Drax, he kind of got to use here, and it worked really well. But then again, he got to show a little emotion at the end, and it was pretty good. Sterling K. Brown as Waikiki. Here's where the names start coming in, the hotel location code names. Sterling K. Brown as Waikiki is the movie's everyman. He's the criminal that's been trying to get out but keeps getting drawn back into the game for reasons that the movie discusses. Sophia Boutella she plays a character called Nice. And is your typical movie super assassin, the one that's more of a badass than her on-screen presence lets on at first. Jeff Goldblum as Niagara, is basically that crime boss that owns the city, as well as the Hotel Artemis, and there's a little bit of Jeff Goldblum in there, of course. I mean, you're going to hire Jeff Goldblum as a character, you're going to get Jeff Goldblum as a character. Zachary Quinto, plays Niagara's youngest son and is always trying to impress his dad, even if it means he has to break some rules, especially the rules of the hotel. Charlie Day plays Acapulco, who's an arms dealer hiding out at the hotel, and he's the only thing I can really call him is the wild card of the movie. Him being there causes some issues that get in the way of a few different people's motivations and plots. As someone who loves a character-driven movie, why, in the end, did this movie not totally work for me? I think that there was just too much going on plot-wise. This is where I might get in a bit of spoiler territory. Don't worry, again, I'm not going to spoil. I'm just going to talk about some plots. I'm not going to discuss the ending or anything. But I am going to give you fair warning. So, are you still here? Okay, here we go. I say this as a compliment, but I think this movie would have made a better television show or, say, Netflix series. Again, it's a big compliment because I was really enjoying the characters and I like the idea of this movie and I like the setting and everything else. But there's just so many characters, so many motivations, and so many stories to follow in this movie for its short runtime. Here are just a few of the plots going on. The nurse is a shut-in because she lost her son years ago. Waikiki and his brother are injured and in big trouble because they stole from Niagara by accident, which honestly never becomes that big of a factor in the movie, and it kind of should have. The nurse breaks her own rules to treat a cop, played by Jenny Slate, who was injured during the riots because she knew, and she let her in because she knew the nurse let her in because the cop knew her son. Nice is at the hotel for more reasons than just being injured, of course. Acapulco is just there as a guest, but him being there is a bit of a wild card when it comes to the rules. An injured Niagara is en route to the hotel, with his son causing trouble for the hotel itself. Waikiki and Nice have had a past, and more. Oh, and plus, there is a history between the nurse and Niagara that I won't discuss. Big spoilers there. Again, there's just so much going on in this movie that it's a bit distracting. If this were a show, a multi-episode show instead of a movie, I think that all this stuff coming together at the end would have made a lot of sense with some time to set everything up, to set up these characters. Maybe if we knew them a little better, it might work. This movie, in a way, reminded me of Smokin' Aces. But that movie had the advantage of having a singular focus, which was to, smoke aces. Except for maybe the setting, the comparisons to John Wick might be a little fair. I guess that a place like the Hotel Artemis might exist for those not able to get into the Continental Hotel. That being said, criminals in this movie have to have a membership to this hotel as well. So, this movie set in, I believe it was 2028. So, LA's getting crazy and it's a little bit of the future. I wouldn't say some of the tech and everything's a little futuristic. It's not overly futuristic, but it's not John Wick world. But I could see a place like this fitting in there. So did I enjoy this movie for what it was? Sure, I did. I really did. I really liked the characters and the setting, like I said. But I unfortunately wouldn't recommend it for anything more than a rental. My problem wasn't that it was a bad movie. My problem was that I wanted more of it. While not totally the case, there is a mid-credit scene that does sequel bait a bit. It's not much. There's really... I wouldn't say that it comes right after, I believe, they do the names of the people in the movie. And it's not much there that you must stick around for. But it kind of teases that, something happened afterwards. And if this movie did have a sequel, especially, I would see a sequel in the theater. Like I said rent this one, but I would go check out another one in the theater. But I have a feeling that if this movie does get a sequel, it might be a straight-to-video sequel. And I'm just about to say who would star in it, but that would kind of ruin part of the movie. So I won't say that. But yeah, I would definitely check out another one. I would be okay if they did have a sequel to this, whether it be straight-to-video or in the theaters. Again, it's got a lot of positives, but there's just so much going on. That's really the downfall of the movie. That being said, I would still recommend at least checking it out. Okay, so for this next movie, I think I'm going to need a bit of a costume change for this one. So, there we go. Next we're going to be talking about Hereditary. Boy, I know I am going to catch some heat for this review. I know I'm going to catch some heat. Alright, so here we go. When the matriarch of the Graham family passes away, her daughter's family begins to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry. First, I think that this movie is going to be just like The Witch from a few years ago, where it will be the critical darling. Critics will claim it is one of the best horror movies in years. Critics will be just kissing this movie's ass. But audiences will be split on it, more negative than positive. I was in the minority of critics that in the end didn't bite. And the same could be said for Hereditary, sort of. I kind of thought Hereditary was a better movie altogether versus The Witch. But we'll get to that. So, what works in this movie? Honestly, everything. Everything works in this movie. But the ending, unfortunately. We'll talk about that in a bit, and don't worry, I won't spoil the ending, but I do have to defend my position on it. First, I thought the acting in this movie was phenomenal, especially from Toni Collette. She will probably get some accolades from this movie and possibly some awards nominations, and they be rightfully deserved. From start to finish, as the movie goes on, we see her character start to lose more and more control. She begins to become unstable, seeing things, just acting different. Her family does have a history of mental illness, so when even more bad things happen to the family, she begins to break even more. And I don't want to say much more than that. I will say that Colette's character sort of reminded me of someone I know, so if anything, that made her performance even that more scary for me personally. I can't really say much more about the cast without giving away too much about the movie, so I'll leave it at this. They all did a really good job at moving the story forward, implementing everything that was going on in the story with solid performances. As for the look, feel, and atmosphere of this movie, it's fantastic. Until the last act, most of the scares are either psychological or subtle. The jump scares are even subtle and effective. They use them very sparingly and very effectively. Even the violent scares were used in just the right way. Just about everything they did in this aspect is done really well. So, things seem to be going so well so far. Well, for me, here's the thing. You can have the most awesome story going, and everything can be going just great and peachy. But if you don't stick the landing, things can just fall apart. Again, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil the ending here. But if you're afraid I'll say too much, I'll sum up my feelings right here for you so you know whether or not you should see this movie. There is a lot to like about this one, but the ending is going to split the audience. I'd say this, check it out and decide on the ending for yourself. For me, it didn't work. For you, it might. So, we're going to be talking about the ending here, technically, at least discussing the ending. I won't reveal the ending, so are you still with me? Okay, here we go. The plot in this movie could only go one of two ways. The stuff going on could either be real or just in the characters' heads. Either way, the way that it shows needed to be creative, needed to be something new. To fit this movie, you needed to do something different, but it wasn't. First, I would have given more credit to the movie had it chose to go in the other direction. I think it would have been more creative that way. I think it would have made the things that happened, it just would have given it more oomph if they chose to go in the opposite direction. Second, while I would have been okay with what they did, the ending is the same stupid ending to a ton of other movies. If you're gonna go the route that you did, you have to do something more than the dun 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 ending. You know what I mean? It's all I can really say about this. This movie needed a twist, a turn, something to make what could have been the best horror movie of the year stand out. But it didn't. For me, while it doesn't ruin the parts of the movie that work, the lame-ass ending ruins this movie as a whole. Again, I would tell you to see this movie and make up your own mind. You may love it. The rest of the movie as a whole might be enough to make the ending okay for you. If so, that's okay with me. That's cool. But for me, I've seen the crap ending that this movie this great movie gives way too many times. So for me, it just kind of ruins it as a whole. Again, but the performances are great. The atmosphere is great. All of it's great. But again, if you can't stick the landing, well, it just kind of hurts for me. That's going to be all for this Talkin' Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Geno YouTube channel. Feel free to comment on this video. Let me know what you think of these movies. Please try to keep it spoiler-free for those that haven't seen it. Also, hit that notification bell so you know when my latest videos will be coming out. As always, I am your host, the Real Geno, Geno Reynolds, and I'll talk to you next time. Later.